Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video it is going to be another ranking. And I'm going to be ranking all 5 Purge movies. So The Purge is a fairly popular horror franchise produced by Blumhouse. And the premise is fairly simple. Once a year, every year for 12 hours, all crime in America, including murder, is legal. And in a nutshell, that's the Purge movies. And with the 5th and possible final film in the franchise, the Forever Purge, finally releasing in theaters this weekend, it's time for another ranking. Before we get into the actual ranking itself, I just wanted to let you know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my ranking videos. So be sure to check that out and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so, without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 5. The First Purge. Okay, not the first Purge, the 4th Purge, the First Purge. After 2 solid entries, this prequel nearly fell flat on its face. It tries to be this really deep commentary about the current state of American society, but then they completely ruin it for themselves by making every character in this movie the exact stereotype that they're trying to commentate on. I mean, seriously, every character in this movie is just a generic stereotype. And it really sucks too, because the 2 lead actors in this movie are actually pretty great and give by far the best performances in the movie. All of the visual effects in this movie, the green screen, the gore, the guns, the explosion, all of it feels very cheap, obvious, and abysmal. The villains are forgettable, the plot is paper thin. Again, it just really sucks because this movie had the chance to be a fairly cool prequel, but instead ended up being mostly awful and by far the weakest in the franchise. Number 4. The Purge. Okay, this one is actually the first Purge. Like, the first Purge movie, and it's The Purge. It's The Purge. With one of the coolest premises for a horror flick in recent memory, they instead, for whatever reason, elected to make a generic home invasion movie, with the stuff you actually want to see only really hinted at in the background. I think the core family and the main antagonist here are fantastic, and that's primarily what saves this movie from being completely forgettable altogether. I will give credit where credit is due. It does boast some tense moments, and a few memorable kills, but sadly the main thing that this movie is remembered for is exactly what I stated in the beginning. It is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to wasted potential, so it's a damn good thing that it got some sequels. Number 3. The Forever Purge. Okay, so I just wanted to address this very quickly off the top. I get the name, the Forever Purge. I actually kind of like it. But in the movie, they don't call it that. They call it the Forever After Purge, which is just so unbelievably dumb in my mind. Why not just call it the Forever Purge in the movie too? Regardless, I went into this movie not expecting very much at all. However, I left the theater pleasantly surprised by certain elements. Firstly, this movie has the highest production value of this series by far. It just looks great. The effects don't look or feel very cheap. We travel to numerous locations, and overall the movie just looks and feels a lot better and cleaner than the rest. I think the Texas setting was a good choice, and it was actually pretty cool to see the Purge in daylight. The lead characters are likable and relatable enough, and I really like the focus on immigrants of all kinds experiencing their very first Purge, or what the American dream really is in this movie's universe. But sadly, none of these characters are anywhere near as cool as Frank Grillo, who we will talk about very soon. The movie's themes and social commentary are blunt, in your face, but they do get their point across. Sadly though, on the flip side, the movie's story is generic and predictable. There's no creative or memorable villains or costumes like there are in all of the other ones. And there are some oddly jarring editing choices. Things like extreme close-ups and weird shaky cam and other things that I just didn't really agree with. Nevertheless though, I actually applaud them for trying something new. Number 2. The Purge Election Year. Election Year does a lot of what its predecessor did right. It puts you right back into the heart of the Purge. Certified badass Frank Grillo is our leading man once again, and this movie offers up a fresh new batch of murderous psychopaths in unique and creative costumes. However, this one has a much more narrow focus than all of the rest, which some may like, but I didn't really love. The whole movie is essentially a glorified escort mission, where Frank Grillo's character takes it upon himself to escort Elizabeth Mitchell's character, who I might add is also superb in this movie, which works fine for the majority of the runtime, but the third act is painfully sloppy, which slightly sours an otherwise mostly entertaining time. Number 1. The Purge Anarchy. Okay, so this is what the Purge should have been from the very beginning. And really what it was always meant to be. I think this one comes the closest to fulfilling the highest potential that this series could reach. It's fast-paced, chaotic, and terrifying, as Anarchy puts you right into the middle of the Purge, as we follow a small group of people who all end up in the heart of the madness, led by the always badass and often overlooked Frank Grillo. This movie actually does such a good job at putting you in the shoes of these characters, never knowing what's around every corner, being hunted down by countless assholes in creative costumes, hell-bent on killing them just for shits and giggles. The movie is actually super solid all the way up until its third act. It's gruesome, violent, and occasionally a little disturbing. But the final act I find to be incredibly lackluster. The rest, however, is a total blast, and the best that the Purge series has had to offer so far. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking. And feel free to let me know what ranking you'd like to see next. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.